Hello, welcome to the First Issue Club. We are your weekly comic book podcast where, just like Sue Storm, we love a good read. This is the place where we're going to talk about number ones, comics with the big old number one on them. And people say, Mike, you were born in 1985. How do you keep such a youthful spirit about you? What's that verve you have on your podcast that makes me think, God, this guy's just a young whippersnapper getting into the game? And then it turns out, no, my joints are getting weaker and weaker and losing cartilage by the day. It is because I have discovered my own personal El Dorado, the number one comic book. A first issue, a new place for new stories that keep me fresh, young, vibrant, discovering new beginnings to new exciting stories. That's what we're going to be talking about this week, getting you into finding new first issues to explore for your own journey, to rediscover your own youth.
You forgot vibrant. You forgot handsome.
Oh.
You forgot sweet.
All the great words to describe ourselves and comic books.
Yes.
And boy, we've got some handsome first issues for us this week. Over on the Patreon today, we did a little bit of subsequent issue club. We caught up on some books we haven't read. We did a little bit of show off if you're watching videos with us over there, where we shared some goodies we got. So that was fun. Oh, you know what we also did was cracked some brews open and had a little bit of Boulevard. This says Easy Orange on the can, but it is actually fundamental evil.
What's more evil than being in a can that's
disguised in a special secret can, this hoppy special version of Space Camper IPA that Boulevard did just for fans at Planet Comic-Con. How cool to have your own version of Space Camper just for Comic-Con and just for the mega nerds who are making it out to the con floor, and for us, the even more special nerds who got such a limited run of the cans of beer that they came in cans for a different type of beer.
We're like the nerd of the nerds.
That's right.
Nerd squared. Yes, thank you.
We're getting zooted. It's a 10% beer.
Yes, thank you, Boulevard,
for making this podcast possible.
For making this podcast feasible. I'll say that.
That's right.
You know, sometimes
Yep.
It's just not feasible without a certain level of social lubrication. Makes it a little bit easier.
I love it.
Thank you to Boulevard. Got a couple of news topics before we get to the number ones. Number one, with a bullet, without exaggeration, comics are exempt from tariffs.
Huge.
For now. We'll see if that changes in the next week.
Yeah.
But comic books, or at least the paper they're printed on, are exempt from tariffs. So we don't have to worry about, comics skyrocketing in prices.
Yep.
We shouldn't have to worry about our beloved indie publishers, going under because they're getting priced out of the game. Shouldn't have to worry about our friends over at Kickstarter, the true indie people that are making books one book at a time.
Yep.
getting, shoved out of the market. So
here's one thing I haven't heard yet. Have the Spawn crew over at Image Comics
rescinded
the price bump?
I checked in the Image.
Yeah, solicits or whatever.
And granted, this was in print.
This just happened too.
It just happened. It's still $3.99.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. They might go to print on these covers at $3.99 just because they're already the design files are already ready to go or sent to printers before this. I mean, stuff is changing day to day now.
I can't imagine a world where they would rebuke that.
Yeah. I mean, they were long overdue for a price increase.
It's already done.
Yeah.
It's a wonder they almost made it 30 years.
Yeah, at $2.99. I know $3.99 seems cheap still.
Yeah.
I mean, most comics you're buying now from DC and Marvel are like $5-6.
Yeah. Yeah, $4.99 is like the standard price.
Yeah. Oof.
You get I'll say probably 4 out of 10 of my books are $3.99.
Yeah.
And then 4 out of 10 are $4.99, and 2 of them are, $6, $7, $8.
Let me ask you this. How much was a $1 increase per comic going to affect your buying habits? Had you thought about that at all yet?
Well,
or it was going to be like, this is a tomorrow Vargas problem?
I mean, yeah. If I'll say this, if Moon Knight went up $1, I wouldn't stop reading Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I'm only reading Rat City from the Spawn stuff. And I might pick up the odd issue here or there. So like, it's not gonna affect me. But I guess if you're picking up every Spawn book that comes out.
Well, I'm not just talking Spawn. I'm saying when we thought comics across the board.
Oh, across the board.
We're going to go up $1 a piece.
Yeah. I mean, that would probably knock me down a book or 2 a month.
I was thinking about discontinuing my Marvel purchases and going all unlimited.
Yeah.
Because I just have so many Marvel comics at this point that maybe I keep just Uncanny X-Men going and maybe mainline Amazing, just because those are my 2 longest unbroken runs that I have going. And then everything else just read online. But yeah, I'd be at a real crossroads with that. And I feel like you would have way less people supporting weird books they know nothing about on a whim or on a chance. Like, you have to pre-order these things for these independent creators to keep going. And I really believe in supporting art, and that's a huge thing for me on this podcast. Part of the reason why this podcast was possible was because I was just always pre-ordering every #1 issue that came out on any indie publisher.
Yeah.
Because I was just like stoked on all of these weirdos who are putting their weird art out there. And I have this romanticism about comics where it is this affordable, accessible medium for creators to get their stories out there that maybe then become movies or TV shows, or they reach the zeitgeist at large like a little bit later. But this is where all like the cool creative voices come first, I feel like, because it is that like affordable, accessible medium. And by increasing prices just a couple bucks, you lose access. So many people lose access to this medium as like a way to express themselves. I'm not even saying like surviving by like creating content as your job, just as a form of self-expression to put something out there and not expect to make any money on it. Like, you're gonna have less and less of that over time. So,
well, and I guess I'll say this, like, if every comic book was to go up $1, I would still buy indie stuff, because that's
my thing.
That at least is exciting.
I think I cut off big 2 first before I cut off independent comics.
Like, I would probably still buy Batman. I would still buy Moon Knight. But, like, am I going to pick up I don't even think Marvel would bother making stuff like Phoenix. You know, like,
I mean, that's a drag.
Why would you bother printing, like, that Fire and Ice book?
Yeah, right.
When your #1 issue is going to be $6?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to buy that.
But at that point, do you go straight to digital with this stuff? And that's what keeps people on your subscription platforms. Yeah. Because I think, like, I want creators to like make this stuff, and I want these cool independent creators to have a place to go and actually like live off of this creative platform and medium that we love. But there almost has to be a big 2 to create some sort of sustainability. Like, not everybody can be a Robert Kirkman and create like a media empire out of comic book fame.
Well, but even then, like, you want the big connected universe where all your...
I mean, it is fun, right? It pays cool off stuff, after a while, yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think I think that would be the casualty eventually, is that we would stop getting... Yeah. We would only end up with, like, Spider-Man, Avengers, Hulk.
Yeah.
And there'd be, like, 10 Marvel books on the shelf and, like, 6 Batman books.
Yeah.
And that's all we'd end up with, which is a tragedy of its own, right?
That is a drag.
Like,
it is a drag.
Would Marvel print Helverine if every issue was $6?
I don't know. Probably not. My hope would be that you would keep up these like smaller run side quest books for the digital platforms, though.
Yeah.
And that would keep the subscriptions cost worth it for people.
Yeah.
So
you'd hope.
I don't know. We're at a weird time in comics either way. I think like just the tariffs conversation and the economic unease of the moment has created shockwaves through all kinds of different industries, and especially hobbies that are like a treat.
Yeah.
Like these sort of things get cut from people's budgets really quickly.
Very quickly.
And that's, I mean, just like schools, they cut the arts first.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. And I know some people hear the arts relating to comics and they roll their eyes, but I really mean it. I think like I love it as a form of like huge pop culture, and thinking about things like Spider-Man as like Mickey Mouse and keeping these big character archetypes alive is very exciting to me. And then these people who are like telling really culturally relevant stories of different types of people that aren't getting their stories to larger platforms, but they can get them out in comics form and ultimately make their way over time to larger platforms. Like that's like the most exciting part of this medium to me.
Yeah. Well, and stuff like Persepolis and Mouse have to stand on the shoulders of Spider-Man and Batman.
Sure. Right? Like there is something to like Spider-Man and Batman is a way to make the medium like accessible and fun. And then here's your, not even your dose of medicine necessarily. I almost hate saying that because these Mouse is such a beautiful and entertaining and riveting comic, but it's something that I think a lot of people wouldn't entertain experiencing without having some familiarity with the medium first.
Yes, for sure.
So,
well, speaking of indie books, not so indie, I guess, but you said you had no experience with the Transformers Kickstarter.
No.
You are in the minority, my friend. So Skybound and Image are doing a set of compendiums of the Transformers series from the 80s.
Yeah.
It's I guess there were 2 series that were running kind of concurrently and interwovenly in US and UK.
They did this with G.I. Joe, right? Same thing.
They did this with G.I. Joe. They are printing these together for the first time in big old thick boy books. And it was funded in 2 minutes.
God.
And in 2 days, it has made $2 million.
Whoa, wild.
Yeah. So
I wonder how many units that is.
A lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot of units.
Yeah.
The price is actually pretty good. It's 4 compendiums. If you get the whole kit and caboodle, it's 4 big old 1,000-page books inside of a box set, and it's $300.
Yeah.
So if you're like Transformers boy,
this is your chance.
It's not a bad price, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can get it in like your form of choice where it's all separated out, US and UK, or you can get it in like interwoven format where it's in release schedule.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
They, kind of do this thing like back and forth.
mind goes back and forth on the cost of these things. Like, that's a lot of money to spend at one time on a comic book series. But the price per unit of what you're getting is really good, right? You're getting like tons of content for $300. And you think about the cost of these like normal prestige compendiums that are like saving, like doing like archival quality reprints of the art and collecting it all in one place that has like some adjunct content about the historical significance of like the people creating the comics at the time and what they were influenced by and the pop culture moment that Transformers had. Like, a lot of these things have these commentary bits in them. Taschen releases these things.
Yes.
And they're like $200 a book. And
it's like 25 issues or
and
something,
it's like
right?
not even. And this is like, you know, a ton for $300. But it is a tough pill to swallow. For like $300 at once for a lot of people right now is too much money.
It's a lot of money.
I guess not too much for too many people because it made $2 million.
$2 million bucks. Yeah. I mean, I'll say this. The packaging alone is like, it gives you that like tingle, you know?
Oh, like, it's like a cool nostalgic 80s.
It's just like really well presented.
Yeah. There is a huge FOMO factor to the essence of Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah.
That they have stuff exclusive to the initial run, and it's a timed thing. And if you're not in that right time zone, then you're not going to get it.
Yep.
And that turns the gears in a lot of collector brains.
Yes, very much so.
I read something the other day, too, that was like how many Kickstarter comics are getting like started over the last year, and how it's gone up like 25% or something over 2024 into 2025. And to, I don't know, kind of parlay it into the conversation we were having earlier, is that a lot of people who can't afford to get comics to publishers are self-funding through Kickstarter.
Yep.
And kind of depending on people to take a chance on them and give you, you know, maybe pay a real premium, lean on the people who can pay a real premium to make sure you can get your thing made. And my only, like, the thing that gives me like a tinge of bitterness that I don't love with some of these like larger publishers doing things like this is you're asking $300 from a publisher who can maybe afford to manufacture some of these and send them to comic book shops.
Sure.
But instead you're using this crowdfunding platform that our eyes should be on small independent creators making new things.
Sure.
I say that, but 90% of comics on Kickstarter are like racy smut. You know what I mean?
So true. Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know what's like the right side of that. Like there's always something about these things that leaves a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. But at the same time, it's like Skybound is making this prestige thing, and they're offering it in a format to very particular tastes.
Yes.
To make something very specific for people who are very specific about the thing that they like.
Yes.
And that might not be as feasible to just like mass produce and put out on shelves and see how people like it.
Well, yes. So, and that opens a bigger conversation too, that we don't necessarily have to jump all the way into. But, you know, there are big name folks that still seemingly either make the choice or are forced to go the Kickstarter route.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of two specific examples. Patrick Horvath kickstarted Free for All.
Yes.
And he wrote arguably the biggest indie book of 2024.
Yep.
In Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Mm-hmm. His was on Zoop or whatever that thing is called.
Yeah. Yes, but it's
another crowdfunding.
It was crowdfunded,
site.
right?
Yeah.
But then, you know, Dark Horse released it mass market just 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. So
Free for All.
For some reason, he made the decision or was forced to crowdfund it, right?
Yeah.
Additionally, this was further back, kind of before they got huge, but did you ever hear or read Wife Wolf?
No.
So this was
Wife Wolf.
Yeah, so it was a like kind of a feminist werewolf story, but it was by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a Kickstarter book.
Yeah.
Kind of right when they were like taking off.
Hitting our stride.
Yeah,
they did really cool. I have a page. Yeah, it's obscured by the light right here, but I have a Captain America double page spread above my comic book shelves up there. That's really rad.
Yeah, I'm not jealous of it at all.
I think it's the first page of that book that sets up all the Bucky stuff.
It's the Captain America anniversary.
He joins that like secret organization in that issue.
Yes, he does.
Such a cool book.
Very good.
Yeah.
The whole run, absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, they kickstarted this book.
Yeah.
And then I think Vault ended up putting it out as like an OGN. Right? Obviously you have stuff like Keanu Reeves and Matt Kent doing Berserker as a Kickstarter. Yep. But that I would make the argument that that's kind of in its own realm.
Yes, but I feel like that burnt a lot of asses in the comic book community.
Yes,
but for a lot of people who don't go to comic book shops, they got mailed a Keanu Reeves comic that was like super violent and crazy, and it worked out for most people.
Well, and I still don't understand why Marvel doesn't do subscriptions like they used to do in the 60s and 70s.
Oh,
and
they just
80s.
Mail you your comics?
Just mail me my books.
Yeah.
Every month. Direct from Marvel.
Yeah. I think if they started doing that, we'd all be like, fuck you, support local comic shops.
But I mean, it would get more comics to more people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
You think about people who don't have a local comic shop, right?
Totally.
Whatever.
Yep. You have to prove you don't have a local comic shop.
Yeah, prove it, bro.
And then you can get on the subscription.
Send me your zip code.
Yeah. All those I have a lot of old books in my collection that have the subscription crease.
Oh, yeah.
So they would fold them down the middle, if you don't know. So they would fit into old like mailers.
Yeah.
And they've got a straight line right down the middle. And there's certain things that like to me have a certain charm to them. Like I don't mind a date written on an old ass comic that used to go on the newsstand, and they would know to pull them off in October because they wrote like September on the cover of it.
Or
I don't think that affects grade either. Like there's certain things. We're getting the nuances of grading here, but
again.
But I have a comic that's 9/6 that has a date written on the cover, and I think if that mattered, that would ding it way more than a 9/6.
See, I need to bring in my Don Rosa Moon Knight because it's an 8.0, and I mean it's got some stuff, but like the biggest thing is it has a stamp on the cover.
Yeah,
but the stamp is like, do not circulate. You know, it's like a Marvel insider
that's like a
copy.
From Pub. Yeah.
And that book
not for resale sticker.
Yeah. That book looks pristine otherwise.
Yeah.
But it's an 8.0.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to look at and of course, knowing CGC, there's probably no grader notes on that.
No.
That drives me absolutely nuts. There are comics where it's just like, I would love to just know. And I think you could just tell by looking at 90% of comics. I'm wondering if this particular thing matters or not. Just give me enough so I know that we dinged it because of this, this, and this. Not that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll bring it next week and we can compare your 9/6 to my 8.0.
Yeah. I have
see what
an Elektra first appearance that has a black smudge across the front of it.
Yeah.
And I always wondered if that was something that affected grade.
Yeah.
But since I've seen a 9/8 of that book with the smudge, because it's a printing thing,
right,
they don't consider it when grading.
That's so interesting.
Really weird, right?
It makes me wonder about my Moon Knight variant I have, where it has like a defect from.
Yeah.
It looks like it's from the polybagging process.
Yeah, right.
And it makes me wonder if that little like tick would affect the grade.
Yeah. The thing, it depends on the day.
Yeah,
the graders are having.
That's right. Maybe slip $100 bill inside the front cover.
Get yourself a 9.8. I've had comics with where the only problem with them is like the poofed out cover corners.
Oh, sure.
Where they've kind of exploded because they're an oversized issue.
Yeah.
I've gotten 9.8s and 9.6s in those.
Crazy.
And you just like, they look exactly the same.
That's nuts.
Yep.
Well, that's the only news I had. Do you want to talk about some first issues?
Yeah, let's.
I'm glad you picked up the heavy lift here.
Yeah, let's
talk. Mike
read
read actual new stuff.
Yes.
So why don't you go first?
Okay. Did you read this?
I did.
Okay.
You're gonna have to help me as a spider boy.
Here comes the spider boy. That's me. Don't tell everyone my secret identity. Amazing Spider-Man is out with a new #1 issue. We're getting closer and closer to 1,000 of Amazing Spider-Man. This is Legacy 965, so it's coming up. This is a variant, but I thought it was cool. Very anime style.
I got the Black Cat variant.
Oh, yeah. Whew. There were some nice covers for this. Obviously, you have a new Amazing Spider-Man out. There's going to be a ton of variants to choose from.
Yes. A glut of variants.
Yeah, that's right.
Say.
I almost wish sometimes that this is one thing independent publishers are really good at that the big two really aren't, is like a cover gallery sort of thing.
Oh my God, I always love a cover gallery.
Love a cover gallery, and we don't get it for a lot of big two comics.
I don't know that I've ever seen one in a big two book.
Yeah. So Joe Kelly recently wrote the kind of like 8 Deaths of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think, God, am I wrong in that?
I can check.
Double check me on that. But I think he's been writing, like he took over the Zeb Wells run.
Okay.
And for some reason, they didn't reset the numbering during that kind of like in-between stint. I've been on comic book Reddit a decent amount lately, and there's a lot of mixed feelings, as there always is, about a new first issue. I think that frustrates a lot of people.
I'm trying to find that Joe Kelly did write the last couple of issues.
Okay.
66 was written by Justina Ireland.
Oh, okay.
67 was written by Justina Ireland. 68 was Christos Gage and Justina Ireland. 69 was Joe Kelly.
Okay.
And 70 was Joe Kelly.
So from 69 on.
Well, the last 2 issues.
The last
69
2 issues.
and 70.
Okay. Thank you for indulging us, audience, in this side tangent.
We need to be accurate.
I don't know what I was saying. In any case, let's talk about this comic. I'm getting too in the spider weeds. This starts with Peter Parker trying to find a job. And I think they do a pretty good job of acknowledging a handful of things from Spider-Man's past without bringing the baggage from all of those things along for the ride.
So from the point of view from a spider neophyte,
yeah,
this was helpful.
Yeah,
because I got to see. I mean, they basically go all the way back to when I started reading Spider-Man, which was Superior.
Yes,
they talk about that stuff, and they kind of give you like brief little one-liners of what Spider-Man's been up to.
I thought this was very eloquent. It's done in one of his job interviews.
Yes.
They're like, why should we hire you, doing the normal interview stuff? And they ask him, I think, about his like weaknesses.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, geez, where do I start? And they're like, well, I mean, you had a company that failed in Parker Industries. You we found out that someone else wrote your master's thesis, which when in Superior, Doc Ock gets his like degree.
Yeah. For Peter.
Peter, yeah. And they acknowledge a lot of these things that have happened in like past arcs.
Yeah.
To kind of get you up to speed of like, I know Peter Parker, I know the basics of Spider-Man from like watching the cartoons and the movies. Here are some of the highlights or main hits of things you should know about him before we get into this new story, just because it contextualizes why he's kind of like
looking for a job,
a lovable character and a hated person, and like why people know him and know who he is in New York and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
That he's kind of like lived like a quasi-celebrity life as a tech mogul. And so people are aware of him.
Yeah, he's a known entity, but not a public figure.
Right.
Yeah.
So he goes through a bunch of job interviews, can't get a gig, spending time with Aunt May, helping with Feast.
Always good stuff.
Yep.
Getting to see Peter interact with Aunt May was nice.
Yep. We've got Peter starting a new job finally because he's got a guy that he used to play pranks with in middle school who's like, I'm going to look out for you.
Was this a guy we knew already?
I don't know who this guy is.
Okay, perfect.
And I've read Amazing 1 through 400 or something.
Okay.
And I like, maybe he showed up in there, but I don't remember it. He wasn't like a big enough character.
I'm going to assume
to
we
stick
don't
in
know
my
who
brain.
This guy is. Then.
I think they just made him up because when Amazing starts, he's in high school.
Sure, right.
And they made a point to be like this was a middle school, like 7th grade sort of a relationship that they had.
Okay.
So I think he's a new character.
Okay. Because that wasn't made clear.
Yeah.
But they also didn't give any editorial notes. So
right.
I'm guessing this is...
See, all the way back in Amazing Spider-Man number 5.
Yeah. Right. I did like, though, that Peter was like, remember whatever his name was from middle school? And Aunt May's...
Like icy.
Got the icy like dialogue bubble. That was good.
Yep. So his first day of work, he skips out. Because the Rhino is rampaging, but...
Isn't he always?
Yep. We have a moment where he collapses on the street and his heart stops. And
this was the highlight of the issue.
This was definitely the highlight of the issue and something that was like, oh, this isn't something I see in every ASM reboot.
Yeah.
That one of these characters had like a moment of fragility. Is that a word?
Sure.
That you just normally don't see in like a sci-fi fantasy setting, that the character had like a heart attack.
Yeah.
And Peter is giving him like CPR and he ends up making it. And then you find out that there is the old hobgoblin, Ben Kingsley. Is that his name?
Yep.
Is dealing some drugs in different parts of New York that are causing characters to like
Hulk out, right?
Yeah, kind of like adrenaline rush, go nuts, and then their hearts give out.
Yeah,
as like a side effect of that. And they are after Spider-Man in this capacity, where he's going out looking to see what happened with the Rhino. It was very out of character, very strange. He's kind of rehabilitated lately. How did he fall off the wagon? And he goes to his house and kind of starts like having this like heart racing trip while he's there.
Yes.
So they found a way to like infect him with whatever this is. We're kind of left to believe at the cliffhanger.
The other thing I wasn't sure on was we get a scene with Peter Parker's friends.
Yeah.
Do we know these people?
Okay. This was highlight number 2 for me.
Because initially I thought this girl was Cindy Moon.
No.
But...
So, Randy, who is the editor of the Bugle.
Okay.
His son.
J. Jonah Jameson?
No, not J. Jonah Jameson. Who's in charge of it now?
Oh, is it? It's not Ben Urich, is it?
Nope.
I don't know.
I'm spacing on his name.
I'm out of Spider-Man characters.
Yeah, sorry. There's so many names to remember. I know everyone's yelling at me. But Randy is Peter's old roommate.
Okay.
And they're double dating with Peter and Shay. And Peter's been dating this Shay character.
Okay.
For
this is existing.
Yeah, I don't know, like 8 months to a year, maybe.
Sure.
In the comics, she shows up pretty sparsely.
Okay.
But is like kind of come to a point where she's giving him a chance and is starting to deal with the fact that
it's flakiness.
He's kind of flaky.
Yeah.
So we've got at least like a little bit of a relationship going with Peter at the moment. And yeah, this gal that Randy's on a blind date with just gets like wasted. And they've got to...
I thought she was a lot of fun.
They got to pull her off. Yeah, I know. I'm like, I would love this character to come back. There's a certain... Like the gal in She-Hulk that was at the magic show.
Yeah.
That is like Wangers.
Yeah, Christina or whatever.
Yeah.
With an X, but not where you think it is. Yeah. Whatever her name was. Yeah.
It's like that sort of a character that's just like really fun to have around. That was like, I think is just like a throwaway.
Yeah.
That we probably won't see again, but
yeah, she was a blast.
Brandy
was her name? Brandy.
One of the more fun parts of the comic. Bree. Yeah. And I don't know. I love this stuff in Spider-Man comics. These kind of more like slice of life, Peter's relationship sort of things.
Sure.
And that's to say, like, I'm one of the people who likes Peter in a relationship. I don't care if he's married or dating. Like, I don't need him to be like constantly changing love interests. Like, that frustrates me when it's just like, now it's a new person. Now it's a new person. Now it's a new person. I would rather he pick someone and stay with them for several years than just like a constant like fleeting romance that changes like every 5 issues.
Sure.
So we'll see how long Shay sticks around.
She'll stick around till Black Cat comes into town. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. And then, yeah, like we kind of already gave the like climax to this where he goes to search the Rhino's apartment and gets like, has like an attack and starts like...
he like hallucinates. Right?
Hallucinating things.
Yeah.
And then there's too many backup stories that just kind of show some follow-up of like where other characters are at now in the Spider-Man world. Like there were some loose ends with Norman Osborn, and we see him on a podium trying to give up Oscorp and then realizing that he's got some work to do. So he decides to stick around and keep Oscorp. And then we've got, which is a good way to like keep Norman in the story because he's become a very important character lately, but also force Peter out into this new job because I think Norman and Peter were trying to be less codependent on each other recently.
Yeah.
And Norman stepping away from Oscorp was a good way to push Peter out of Oscorp. But now we found a way to get him back in the status quo while also pushing Peter out.
It felt like what I think is going to happen is they're going to have to team up to fight Hobgoblin.
Yes.
Like it felt like they both were like, all right, we have stuff to do.
Yes. Okay, and then we've got this character, Hellgate. I think is going to be the character. The Hellgate is open.
Yeah, is this a new boy?
I don't know this character, and maybe take my Marvel card.
It looked like Ares to me.
Yeah.
But they call him Hellgate, or
They say the Hellgate is open, and he's been like birthed from like a fossilized tree within a mountain.
Yeah. And it does not look like what I would say is a traditional Spider-Man villain.
No.
This looks like a Ghost Rider or a Hulk.
Yeah, very medieval, brooding, large guy with an axe and armor.
Yeah.
Very like Thor-esque.
Yeah, very Thor.
For as long as we talked about it. And I don't know. How do I want to put this? sometimes when you read a first issue, you expect a bold new direction that validates the number one. Like, hey, we've gone with this Spider-Man run for, 60 some issues.
Yeah.
Why are we restarting the number? It's to like not only bring a new creator in, but to really push a hard reset button and change the direction. And this was sometimes in those sort of things, it's like we're resetting the status quo a bit and getting back to basics and dealing with like, we're just going to deal with the Sinister Six for a little while and let everybody settle down from how convoluted things get over 60 some issues, which is not a knock on the previous series. It's just like, that's what happens when you in reading Batman right now. They're up to 160 issues in this run, right?
Yep. And
it's carrying a lot of the baggage of the previous 160 issues when you're reading it week to week. And it's got a new number one coming as well.
Yep.
And that'll be a way to kind of shake some of that off and start a little fresh and not have to worry about acknowledging all of the stuff. Like it exists in the same world, but it's a fresh break kind of period where we're saying, let's not acknowledge the baggage all the time, or it doesn't have to be so essential to the character in this run as it was in the last run.
Right.
This comic felt like it could have very easily been the next issue of the last run.
Yes.
It felt very much like a really, maybe this was because they broke it into 3 parts. It felt extremely short.
Yeah.
It felt like the beginning of a next arc without resetting too much status quo. It just wasn't like the big eye-popping brand new series. We're going to put our flag down and be like, this is what it's going to be for a while in this like bold new direction.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a note from the publisher. I think sometimes they're just like, people are sick of bold new directions. We want to get back to some of the stuff that we love about Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a iffy topic for a lot of people, and you're not going to make everybody happy with a character that's so loved and so popular, because I'm of the cohort that is like, yeah, do fun, weird stuff with this guy.
Yeah.
And then there are people who are like, why are we continually changing what is so great about Spider-Man? And it's like these fights against characters that we know and love, and his dynamic between Doc Ock and him.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
No, I was in the same boat. Again, as a Spider noob, I was, I don't know, disappointment is the wrong word, because it was a good issue.
It's just a single issue, right? Yeah. And I'm not going to judge Joe Kelly's run.
Right, on a single issue.
On a single issue.
And it was a good issue beyond that, right? Like it was good.
It was a fine issue, but when you put a number one on it and you roll out the red carpet for your biggest title getting a new first issue, I expected a little more oomph.
Well, I was expecting exactly that, right? Peter Parker is now Green Goblin. That's the number one. Like Spider-Man turns into a spider. That's a number one, right?
Yeah, right.
This, felt like the beginning of like a mini series, or like felt like the beginning, like the first issue after a major event, where you're like, okay, let's catch up to where Peter was before, Blood Hunt.
Yeah.
And now we're back in it.
Yep.
I wanted it to be twice as big.
Yeah, this could have been an oversized double issue that got into it a little more.
Yeah.
Because I think this book was the first moments after hitting the reset button.
Yeah.
That we're kind of cleaning the slate. and we're giving you some context and setting up who Peter Parker is and getting him back on his bullshit.
Yeah.
And kind of setting his status quo, and then it's like bookends.
Yep.
And I just want like the cliffhanger. I wanted the cliffhanger moment to be like, oh, this small snowball is turning into like, I can like start to speculate on what the avalanche is going to become.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there just wasn't that moment.
Yes.
And maybe we get it in the next few issues here. But this book was very status quo to me. And I'd be interested. I'll be listening to other comic podcasts and reading other reviews of this book just because I'm interested to the other side of this coin and how many people are like, this was an up the middle, straight Peter Parker Spider-Man story that's kind of back to basics. And maybe that's getting people really excited too.
Yeah. Yeah, I am interested to see like what issue 2 is, because I'll say this: if every issue Peter Parker has to save a supervillain who's having a heart attack after like rage attacking him, that's kind of cool. Like that's something new that I've never read in a Spider book before.
Yeah.
You know, if people just start dropping dead, or if he himself has to like figure out how to stop this thing before his heart stops and it becomes crank. You know?
Spider crank.
Yeah. That
could
cool.
be.
That
cool. Might be the case.
But like tee that up a little bit more maybe.
Yeah. I needed a little bit more. I think you're right that if the first part of the like triptych of stories was a double issue or double the length it was, we might have had the opportunity to get to that, and I would have been like, oh, shit, I'm bought in.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to keep buying these things no matter what, because I'm me. But I'd be more excited about buying issue number 2 if I had just a taste more.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
What else you read?
That's where we are with
Spider Boys.
Spider-Man. Proceed with caution. I read Fire and Ice When Hell Freezes Over, which is a fun follow-up to their like Smallville series.
Yeah, that was a smash hit.
That was really fun to read. You got a cool Terry Dodson cover here with the gals on it, and on this cover you've got their powers swapped, which is something that happened during what was the event with Amanda Waller? Absolute Power. That all the heroes' powers got stolen, and then many of them got put back after the Amazos were defeated. We're really getting into the... Shows you how accessible this first issue is here. So not only is this a part 2 to Fire and Ice's last miniseries, but it deals with the fallout of Absolute Power. So I read the last Fire and Ice series, and I read Absolute Power. So this was like a fun book that really reads for the DC girlies or people who like really femme-coded stuff.
Sure.
Like,
don't we all?
This is like the girls get together. They are still in like the salon that they all started as a business.
Hell yeah.
They're going out to the bars, flirting with the local people in Smallville.
I love that.
It's very charming in that way, and they're just kind of like, it almost reminds me of Broad City in a way.
Sure.
Where they're just like two chicks who are like very independent and very smart, but can't seem to like get their footing
Sure.
and like figure life out, and get caught up in a lot of shenanigans because of that. And they're written like very modern young women.
In the club, we all fam.
In the club, we all fam would have been a great tagline for this comic. So So fun in that respect, but the crux of it is because of the fallout of absolute power. When the Amazos were defeated, the wrong powers got given back to each of them.
Ugh.
So
fire is now ice. Ice is now fire.
Exactly right. They're
Dogs
trying to
and cats living together.
Mass hysteria. So they're trying to figure out how to deal with each other's powers. Fire invites a lot of the DC gals to come hang out and have like a bar night, karaoke night, but her intentions weren't very pure. And she goes digging through Zatanna's bag of tricks and finds like a monkey's paw thing and tries to swap their powers back using the monkey's paw. And the monkey's paw swaps their bodies. So they're now in a body swap situation.
They're Freaky Friday.
And Ice wakes up in bed with Fire wakes up in bed with her boyfriend in Ice's body.
Okay.
And and then Ice wakes up with her like in Fire's body with her like room on fire.
Sure.
So we'll see where the shenanigans go from there in a body swap comedy.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That's good stuff.
It's like these are like a fun breezy read but with like a superhero bent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would say read the series that preceded this first because it has a lot of fun little characters and relationships between all these like small characters that are probably less enjoyable and more confusing if you haven't been onboarded through the previous series.
Sure.
So, and the previous series is great. So
yeah,
this is less a knock on this comic and more of like a, oh, hooray, there's more of this that's good.
Yeah.
So go back and read the first story and then come to When Hell Freezes Over for another fun miniseries with these two. I love these two characters.
Maybe I will, Mike.
Hey.
Maybe I will.
Do it to it. All right, my last first issue I read. I don't know if you know about these miniseries or these one-shots. Silent Missions.
Oh, are they doing
G.I.
the thing
Joe.
that they did with the Storm Shadow first appearance or whatever, where it's all it's all quiet?
Yes.
Cool.
So these are all kind of an homage to that famous G.I. Joe silent comic.
Yeah.
So they've got a bunch of creators doing different characters to do little solo missions.
Very cool.
All silent. And some of my favorite artists are doing this too. So I'm like really jazzed about this series. Normally I don't buy a lot of G.I. Joe books, but we've got Dan Waters and Dani doing this JINX issue.
Sold.
And then Leonardo Romero does another one. And then Phil Hester does another one. So like three of my favorite artists are working on these. So Dan Waters did a little bit of scripting alongside Dani for this one. And I loved this book. And obviously like artist first in these.
Sure.
Because the pages are beautiful and the spreads are just like unencumbered. But the story behind this one is JINX is in a Cobra base and sets a bomb. And every page is 1 second that that comes off of this like timer for this bomb. And so the whole thing happens in a extremely frenetic 20 seconds of her setting this, an alarm gets set off and she's hopping around, killing guys, trying to get to the roof as soon as possible, dives off as like the building explodes. And there's just like so many cool fight scenes and action dodges and things throughout the book.
That's dope.
That I'll pop this open so you can take a look at it when we're done recording. But it's so fucking cool, and I can't wait for the other ones. Dani is on the what's the name of that art collective? One of the companies that kind of came out of the Cadence downfall. That sells her art. She's got like a new art rep. Yeah. And I almost emailed them after reading this and was like, can I get first dibs on some of the pages in this?
Do it, brother.
I would kill for it. All these pages are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Because they were made with the intent of
no word bubbles.
No word bubbles. So these artists just don't have to consider like all these different nuances.
Yeah.
And it's just their art on the page. So they're all really gorgeous.
Very cool.
Individual pages and really exciting read.
Yeah, I'm going to have to track those down.
So
that's cool. I didn't realize they were doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to buy every one of these in this series now that I've read this one. Really rad.
Very cool.
Yep.
New G.I. Joe head right over here.
Yeah, that's right. That's me.
So I read, I know this is old, but it's new to me.
Yeah.
Greg talked about it, and I had to pick it up. Dark Pyramid. This is the book where
Paul Tobin.
Yeah, Paul Tobin, and the influencer goes missing while he's climbing the mountain, Mount Denali.
Yes.
And his girlfriend goes and chases after him.
I read this one recently.
So cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Very, very cool. And it is, it's one of those horror books where you think it's just gonna kind of be straightforward, but in the last like 4 pages, it really takes a left turn into like unknown territory. And that's great because that's like what I'm always looking for in horror stories is like, don't hold my hand. Like take me to a place where I don't know what is going to happen.
Yes.
Because that's where horror comes from, right?
Yes.
Like if you know what's going to happen, you can't be scared.
Yes. To give everyone like an idea of like what I thought was going on. Like the way the characters are written in this like small isolated town that is where a lot of people start hiking this mountain that this climber disappeared on. Mm-hmm. Like the girlfriend shows up after having her trip crowdfunded by fans of her boyfriend who is a climbing influencer.
Yes.
She shows up to this town and cannot book a room. I loved this part of it.
Yeah.
Because all of his fans have also flocked there to like try to help find him or climb the mountain and or like build like a mecca to his like final resting place.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot of like influencer momentum to this that's interesting. But she shows up in this town and things seem like wrong or amiss. And you start to think like
all the townspeople are like pissed off because all these nonsense people are there.
Yes, that they're a small, quiet town and they've got a lot of city folk coming in who are like hooked on their cell phones and recording everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they just have a general like distrust of all the people coming in. But as you're reading it, it reads like, we don't like these out-of-towners.
Yeah.
Like definitely like kind of scary, but ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, either culty or Stephen King. Like, going way up there, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Deliverance.
Yes.
Like,
and they don't want her setting out for the mountain, and she goes and stays at this like little cabin.
Yeah.
And the way she's like hooked up with or connected to this person who has this cabin she can stay at is very squirrely. Yeah. And you hear someone make a comment later like she's been set up almost.
Good luck. Yeah.
And I think it's meant just kind of like lady's a kook or something.
Yeah.
But as a reader, you're kind of reading it like, okay, the city folk or the townspeople here are like killing city folk who've like come in to like climb the mountain,
or they're intentionally trying to kill this girl
because they don't want her to find out what happened to the guy. And so the book itself is reading like a based in reality thriller, like a true crime kind of story, and then it turns into like a monster thrasher like the last couple of pages, and you're like, what? It was one of those things where like you've got a couple of page turns and you see this like horrific looking creature, and the way they slow rolled its introduction with like the voice,
different color word bubbles,
the word bubbles and the things coming through, and you don't see it for a long time. It's just saying like gross weird stuff to her and this other person, and she doesn't realize the gravity of like what's going on and how fast she needs to get out of there. And created a very spooky but fun horror moment for me.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, tough in comics sometimes to like, you can't rely on jump scares really.
Yes.
Just because you're reading, right?
Yeah. You almost have to do a rug pull like this book does to like make anything impactful.
Yes. But it's very effective, and it's
yes.
completely changed like what I thought this comic was going to be. So the first issue is like, if you're a political thriller, I guess not political thriller, but if you're like a mystery,
like a whodunit
kind of fan.
Did you read Blow Away?
Yes,
it was
I did read Blow
Away.
It was a lot like Blow Away.
A crime that's happening
on a mountain. Yeah,
and then it is a rug pull in the last. Whatever.
God, that last issue was fun.
So good.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dark Pyramid was a lot of fun. Greg was right on the mark.
Yep.
And, maybe we'll cover this on subsequent issue club.
And was this cover?
This is the B cover.
It's a B cover.
This
okay.
Is John McCrea.
Okay, that cover kind of gives some away.
Yeah, it kind of.
I had the A cover.
I mean, even without knowing what the book is, but yeah, there's a spooky monster.
Might be in a different. My copy I think is in a different box. I just saw it recently, but yeah, that's not the cover I had.
Yeah, this is a variant. So yeah, Dark Pyramid, very, very good. I also I talked about this on the Patreon, but I wanted to read Plunge, because it's a very Vargas book. It involves sea monsters, on a boat, which is very much my style.
Is this, you read the first issue?
Yeah, I read the first issue of all of these.
Is Plunge the one with like the artifact that everybody wants?
I have not gotten an artifact yet.
Okay.
It might be.
Maybe, okay.
It's the one where they're set out to recover the boat that crashed in the 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably an artifact.
I think
on the boat.
I think there's an artifact somewhere in this.
Okay. So, anyway, I got this box set of the Joe Hill comics set because it was super cheap on Amazon. So I read the first issue of 6 books, and I'll kind of fly through them. Oh, there's Mike D's A cover for Dark Pyramid.
Put those side by side.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I'll say this too about Dark Pyramid. We have not found the Dark Pyramid yet. We don't know what the Dark Pyramid is.
Yeah.
The titular pyramid is non-existent. Anyway, so we'll fly through these pretty quick, since they aren't new, but they're new to me. Basket Full of Heads is by Joe Hill. And this is the story of a girl who saves her boyfriend by cutting his head off. She has a magic axe that like doesn't kill the people that she beheads with it.
Yeah.
And I forgot how funny it is. I had actually read the first couple issues of this way back when it came out, and it's like kind of a comedy.
It's way more lighthearted
or dark humor, I guess. I should say.
Than you would expect a beheading book to be. It's got this like fun sci-fi twist.
Yeah.
I guess to give you an idea of the tone, I think Natasha Lyonne has been cast.
Oh, yeah.
To play the main character.
Which is perfect.
Yeah. So they're going to have to change kind of like they're going to have to age up the character and change a couple plot points.
Because I think she's like a teenager.
Yeah,
right?
she's like a high schooler.
Yeah. So that's Basket Full of Heads. Very good. Next up, I read The Lolo Woods, and I'm not surprised you have read this because this was Dani did all the art. And this is like an Appalachian body horror book.
Yeah.
Or I think it's going to end up being a body horror book just based on the last like page of the first issue, where there's like creepy stuff in the woods and like maybe witches are involved, but also maybe demons are in the town.
Yep.
And it's like kind of a kids on bikes thing too.
Yep.
Where these two girls are just like living their lives in this town that has been wrecked by a company's mining activities. And they're like dealing with the supernatural after effects of this company.
I really, really liked this series. There's like, obviously, like you said, Dani's on art on it, so I'm going to be very biased already, but there's this theme throughout it of like loss of innocence or innocence being stolen from you.
Sure.
And you get it through the form of like, in the first couple pages, a girl alludes to like a sexual assault.
Yeah.
And like that's mirrored through not only her, but what her friend group is experiencing, and then what like her school and her whole town is experiencing, and then this subculture within the town. And it's just this like, that's just like a thematic thing to keep in your head when you're reading this, to be like, wow, the beauty of like all these things they're mashing together in this like one big story. It's just like, I really enjoyed this comic.
Yeah, I'm excited to read more of this. I
love Appalachian stuff too. Like,
it's like,
and it's interesting to see these like young women who are like on the internet and stuff.
Yeah,
but they're like growing up in Appalachia, and you just have like this real moment wherein the internet has brought so much culture to the younger people, but the older world, Appalachia, is like so far behind that like there is this like witchcraft spiritual sort of part of the town that feels really like dated and otherworldly to them. That's like a really cool contrast. Maybe I'm building this comic up too much. It sounds like the best comic ever.
It's really, I mean,
but it's good. I liked it.
It is really good. And some of the visuals in it were like truly haunting.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what issue this is, but this was a Jenny Frison variant that's on the back.
She did
of this like
the B covers for every issue.
Dear woman.
Yeah.
And that shows up in issue 1, and it was like truly terrifying.
Yeah.
Just the visuals. So yeah, really excited to keep reading that one. I mean, I'm excited to keep reading all these, really and truly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that one was like the number 2 that I wanted to read.
Yeah.
Also read The Dollhouse Family, which is about a little girl who is gifted a dollhouse and then realizes that she can shrink down and interact with the family.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of like a Chucky, like creepy kids, creepy toys.
It almost reads like a Roald Dahl book.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it starts as kind of like charming and interesting fantasy, and then slowly gets horrific.
Totally.
Over the course of it. Like, you're thinking about a dollhouse and like making a wish and getting small inside the dollhouse, and then things start to like make a bent towards like this like uncanny freakiness.
Yeah. It's like if the Indian in the cupboard started hitting on the girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's
this one is way more slowly paced than some of the other ones, and I talked to some people who didn't like this one as much, but I think you're somebody who has been exposed to enough horror that you can handle a slow and appreciate a more slowly paced, like slower burn, freaky comic.
Well, anything.
It's like it lets you sit in uncomfortability longer.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of horrific. And you think about like waiting like 2 or 3 weeks between issues too.
Right.
That really created a reading experience that was like, oh, I don't want to feel gross for like the next 2 weeks. I want to know like what happens.
Yeah. Anything that involves kids instantly like ups the terror versus the horror.
Yeah.
Famously, Stephen King defined terror as the moment leading up to the point where somebody's stabbed. And then horror is the gore after.
Yeah. Right.
And anything that leans more towards terror is always a harder sell, I think, for general audiences.
Yeah.
But that's always the stuff that's like, ooh, that's the gooey stuff. I want that.
Yeah.
So this might end up being a highlight for me then.
I think you're really going to like it.
Did you watch Skinamarink?
No. Oh. Why do I know what that is, though?
It's the one. That's the movie where the kids are in the house and everything's creepy and it looks like a VHS tape.
God, did I watch this?
I don't know. I think I showed you the trailer at one point.
Okay.
Anyway.
I don't think I have.
Kid horror. I love it. Kids need to be spooky. I also read Daphne Byrne, and this was cool because Kelly Jones did the art.
Yeah.
Famous Batman artist. This is about a young girl who's like, it's a period piece in like Victorian London, I guess, where her dad has died and her mom is constantly trying to contact him via mediums, much to Daphne's chagrin because she doesn't believe in that nonsense. Until one night where she meets Brother, who is a spirit or a ghoul or a Damphir of some variety.
Yep.
And kind of takes her on maybe an Alice in Wonderland style misadventure.
Sure.
I don't know what you would call it. Like,
yeah,
it felt a lot like Somna from Distillery.
Yep.
Where there's
another period kind of horror that you're like, I'm not sure how much of this is real and what isn't, what's in someone's mind.
Yeah.
But I think what we were supposed to take, and it's been a while since I've read this one, but I think what we were maybe supposed to take away is that her mom has invited some evil nonsense into her family's life by entertaining, by doing things like Ouija boards and stuff that, like, you know, oh, you shouldn't be fucking with dark magic like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And this entity has like promised her to like reintroduce her to her father.
Yeah.
So again, only read issue 1, but you know, if you're a fan of period piece dramas, this is very like gothic horror, moody and, you know, deep and like very Wednesday Addams kind of stuff.
Yeah, very like I feel like this one was like again another like kind of somber, slow.
Yeah.
Like, how much of yourself are you willing to like give up for something you want? Kind of a
what trauma are you willing to put yourself through?
Yeah, to relieve a past trauma, and then at the end, is any of it worth it?
Yeah,
like,
right. Have you just made things worse? Yeah. So very cool. I think the cover alone like kind of sold me on it.
Very different.
Very cool cover.
Reminds me a lot of like weird Vertigo stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Which was exciting when DC was doing DC hadn't done an imprint for a minute. When Hell House stuff came out, so it was kind of exciting to see these like new weird covers on DC.
Yeah. And then the thing that made me buy the box set was Plunge. And this is like really felt like a throwback to like an 80s horror.
Yeah.
Where a ship that was lost in the 80s has like resurfaced, and the government hires this team of, you know, rough, scruffy, kind of not pirates, but kind of pirate adjacent mercenaries to like recover the boat because they can't go in because it's like kind of in Russian territory.
Yeah.
And then they get to the island and there's like maybe zombies, maybe like spooky worms on a dead guy, and that's where issue 1 kind of leaves you.
It's so good.
But then you get stuff like this on the back of the book,
that
leads you to believe that there's you know, spooky monster on the bottom of the ocean or something. So again, I'm super excited to read this one. It is like totally right up my alley. Tremors is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
And it very much felt like Tremors.
Yeah.
And then one of the highlights of the box set too, this is the only way to read this book in trade. It's Sea Dogs, because they released like 1 or 2 pages of Sea Dogs inside of each issue of these individual floppies for all these other trades. I don't know if I made that clear or whatever, but
no, yeah, that's right.
So the only way to read this outside of floppy is by buying this box set.
And it's so tedious to read it
yeah.
in floppy. Like I bought every single one of these Hill House books as a floppy, and I just skipped over the what is it called? Sea Dogs stuff. Just because it was like, I can't keep these straight.
Well, because you have to read like
reading just 2 pages of it, and then
you'd have to read like Basket Full of Heads 1, and then Lolo Woods number 1, and then Dollhouse Family number 1, and then like cycle all the way back in order to read the story. But anyway, the story itself is about a Revolutionary War ship that hires werewolves, which is like very cool.
Nice.
I didn't read a lot of it because it's not like really broken down into issue based on the way that it was. But this is one that I will read the whole thing for sure and catch up on Patreon.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about it.
So very cool. I would recommend anybody get on Amazon, and I checked it right before I came into Mike D's to record. The box set, unfortunately, is more expensive than $20, but at $40, it's still a steal.
Yeah. And you got it for $20 as part of a deal?
Yeah, it was like 80% off. I went on Amazon just looking for Plunge.
Yeah.
And the box set was
almost free.
Almost. I mean, $20. It was totally worth it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear what you think about the rest of them, because I truly enjoyed every single one of these.
Yeah, I'm pretty jazzed. Maybe I'll just do like a big update one Patreon episode.
Yeah.
Or try to get through one a week.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That's a good.
Do a Hill House corner.
Yeah, that's a good goal for myself.
We should always work on doing more segments. People love segments.
Yeah, got a segment.
All right. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody, and dealing with our takes.
Yeah.
And I hope you have your own, and it's okay if we agree or disagree. And isn't that the beauty of art, that we all get to have our own opinions on it? So while we encourage conversation to continue, don't be too hard on us.
Yeah.
If you disagree, just a PSA.
Yeah.
Or just two guys having a conversation about
we're just
comics.
Two bros trying to make it in this crazy mixed up world.
Yeah.
Fire off in the Discord about what you agree or disagree with us on, but not too harshly, softly. We can only take so much.
Joe Roberts was who I was thinking of from Spider-Man, and Robbie Roberts.
Of course, Joe Roberts
is his son.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye. First Issue Club podcast is brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company, the people responsible for our favorite drinks, the Space Camper Cosmic IPA family of beers. Our show is edited and produced by our hosts Mike DeStacy, Greg Lichtig, and Andy Vargas. You can find us on social media at First Issue Club, and you can join the supporters who keep our humble podcast going on our Patreon at patreon.com/firstissueclub.